24th of September 2024. Hi guys, welcome to Rants, the comedy and tragedy of living in Singapore. Just as I was finishing my walk along Punggol Beach this morning, I saw images of people queuing in front of the High Court on my mobile phone. It was a much anticipated trial of you-know-who, and moments later, the former minister reportedly pleaded guilty to 4 charges of obtaining valuable items in an official capacity and 1 charge for obstruction of justice. The prosecution had amended the charges. Let's not get too imaginative. It may not have anything to do with his lawyer. Now next, the Business Times ran an article on Madam Ho Ching titled "The Reluctant CEO." Now we know that she has been suffering in silence. Let us salute her for all the sacrifices she had made over the years. By the way, that's not an actual article by the newspaper. It's more like a statement from Madam Ho herself. Now, from the elite circles, we descend to the domain of Lao Bai Xing. Now, recently, images of elderly folks picking up leftover food on the tables at hawker centres and coffee shops have been circulating on social media. It disgusts some people. You see, when a hawker centre is crowded, you stand the highest chance of finding a seat near the tray return racks. Most people would choose not to sit close to that area as it is considered dirty. If you are one of those who would rather not sit near the tray return racks, imagine there are people who pick up their meals from leftovers on those racks. Now, according to hawkers, some of the old folks who scavenge for food there would do so every single day, and they usually appear at about 10 a.m. in the morning and around 8 to 9 o'clock in the evening. Now, if these folks spot customers leaving unfinished food on the table or bringing it to the tray return area, they would pick up and eat it. Occasionally, kind-hearted customers would buy them some extra food. Actually, this is by no means something new. I have personally observed people who pick up leftovers at coffee shops since decades ago. Now, those I've encountered were all mentally ill people. They had no work, no money, and couldn't even communicate coherently. There was no internet back then, that's why this is not so well known. But there is a different explanation now. According to one old man who picks up leftovers around Chinatown, it is not that he has no money to pay for food. It's because he can't bear to see food go to waste. Some people have actually seen this old man buying food and drinks himself. I'm not sure about that conclusion, especially when cardboard collectors can claim that they do it for exercise. This uncle insisted that picking up leftovers was an option as he could not bear to see good food go to waste. Frankly, unless someone is starving to death and there is no alternative, people who can pick up other people's leftovers are probably not of sound mind. It may be a bit kiasu to avoid sitting near used utensils and leftover food, but any reasonable person knows that dipping into other people's leftovers will put one at risk of infection. Have people forgotten about the pandemic already? Now, another article in the newspapers. In 10 years or so, there could be more funerals than baby showers to attend, as the number of deaths outstrips births among Singaporeans. Now, if or when this happens, Singapore's population would shrink without immigration. This will have far-reaching consequences, including for the size of Singapore's workforce and our economic dynamism, say some academics who study population issues. Now, it will also have an impact on the caregiving burden and our social fabric. For the longest time, the solution that has been applied to this problem has been immigration. Back in the 1980s, when I was writing my GP essays, I would write that Singapore's population was 2.5 million. Now what's the figure now? It has doubled, more than doubled. How did we do it? By opening our doors to immigrants. So why hasn't this problem been solved? Why aren't the immigrants producing babies? Surely it makes more sense to address this problem rather than to import even more immigrants who don't produce babies. I think most of us already know the root cause of the problem. With the kind of income and the cost of living faced by many working people, own self is already a problem. How to support a family? What about the older fogies like me with declining earning power? Now, there has been a lot of talk about retiring in JB. Then there is this video made by a certain Mr. Lu who discourages people from retiring in JB. Now, let me go through his 7 reasons for not retiring in JB. 47,000 views at this moment. Reason number 1, JB is hotter than Singapore. Now, that's partly true because of the abundance of concrete and thus the parade square effect. But you keep hanging out in the heavily built up areas, definitely you will find JB hotter. There are many nice places to avoid the heat. Reason number 2, Singapore city planning and greenery are better. Now, I have friends who have retired in Bangkok, Phuket, Bali. What's city planning? Why should anyone bring Singapore along with him when he retires to a foreign land? Furthermore, the state of Johor has greenery many times that of Singapore. Reason number 3, he talks about the affordable food and he's only talking about eating out, unhealthy food that is always tempting him. Now, I presume he doesn't cook and have poor eating habits. Most retired people who can cook will not eat out all the time, whether they are in Singapore or in JB. Reason number 4, no social circle. Most Malaysians are living far less stressful lives than Singaporeans, and they have more time to socialize than Singaporeans do. Has Mr. Lu attended weddings in Malaysia? People actually turn up early and they don't hurry off when the dessert is being served. No social circle? Mr. Lu himself admits that people are friendlier. So what's the problem unless you're a monster that nobody wants to socialize with? Reason number 5, family gatherings. My grandparents used to live in JB, right in front of the Lalang field, which is now KSL. When I was a kid, and when my grandparents were still around, our relatives on both sides would gather there on a regular basis. People complained less about traffic jams, bad roads, filling up forms and squeezing into a tiny immigration building. Reason number 6, Mr. Lu talked about visa issues. Now this is the only point which I agree with. MM2H has become more expensive, or should I say, the criteria have become more stringent. There are now 3 categories: silver, gold and platinum. For most middle-class Singaporeans, criteria in the silver category should not be too difficult to fulfill. There are also companies that specialize in helping foreigners get their MM2H. If you're willing to pay the fee, then it won't be so complicated. Now, Mr. Lu admits to having a Malaysian company. Some people have Malaysian friends, relatives and other lobangs. There are alternative pathways. Not surprisingly, folks from the PRC are quite keen on these schemes. You are competing against them via MM2H. Reason number 7, safety issues. I've been to even more dangerous places. Malaysia is actually quite safe as long as you use your common sense and don't expect the government to nanny you. Finally, Mr. Lu suggests straddling between the 2 countries to get the best of both worlds. That's okay, but it is not a solution at all. It won't make JB cooler, it won't bring the crime rate down, and the tempting, unhealthy food will still be cheap and abundant. Now, the only problem you solve is the visa issue. In conclusion, I have friends who have retired in Thailand and Indonesia. I also have friends who can never retire in a foreign country because they just can't shake off their nanny. The negative points mentioned by Mr. Lu don't apply to everybody. It's very much an individual thing. Just don't be under the illusion that staying there is the same as going there on day trips. Now, that's all I have for you. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.